The rain didn't just fall that night, it roared. Wind howled down the empty road, bending the trees until their branches scraped against the glass. Daniel Hayes gripped the steering wheel tighter, his wipers fighting to keep up. The world outside had dissolved into silver streaks and shadows. He was late again. He'd promised his 6-year-old daughter, Ella, that he'd be home before bedtime. But work at the hardware store had gone long, and the storm had trapped him in traffic. He could already picture her little face pressed to the window, waiting for headlights that weren't coming. "Hang on, kiddo," he murmured, glancing at the photo of her taped to the dashboard. "Daddy's coming." He turned off the main road toward the back route, a stretch of country asphalt lined with old oaks and quiet farms. Barely anyone used it. Half a mile in, lightning flashed, and that's when he saw her. A figure standing in the middle of the road. Daniel slammed the brakes. The truck skidded slightly before stopping. Through the sheets of rain, he could make out a woman, soaked, trembling, one arm clutching her belly. She looked no older than 30. Her hair stuck to her face, and she was barefoot. He jumped out, rain instantly drenching him. "Hey, are you okay?" The woman blinked up at him, her lips trembling. Please, I need help. My car. It's in the ditch. I'm pregnant." Her voice cracked on the last word. Daniel didn't hesitate. He guided her gently toward the truck, helping her climb inside. The cab was warm, but she still shivered uncontrollably. Hey, it's okay," he said softly, pulling off his jacket and wrapping it around her shoulders. "You're safe now." "I'm Daniel," she nodded faintly. "I'm Claire." Her eyes fluttered as thunder rumbled again. He leaned closer. "Claire, how far along are you?" 34 weeks, she whispered. "I was going to the next town, my sister's place, but the road flooded. I didn't know where else to go." Daniel nodded, glancing toward the windshield. "The hospital's 10 minutes away. We'll get you there." He drove carefully, every bump making her wince. Her breathing had grown shallow, and he could tell she was trying to hide the pain. "Talk to me," he urged gently. "You got family waiting for you?" Her eyes glistened. "Not anymore. My sister, she's all I had left. I didn't want to be a burden." Daniel swallowed hard. He recognized that kind of pain, the kind that came from loss, the kind that made people think they had to carry the world alone. "You're not a burden," he said quietly. "Not tonight." Lightning flashed again. The road ahead was slick, the storm relentless. But for the first time all night, Daniel felt strangely calm, like fate had steered him to this exact moment. When they reached the small-town hospital, he helped her inside. Nurses rushed to her as he explained what happened. Before they wheeled her away, Claire reached for his hand. "Thank you," she whispered, gripping it tightly. "If you hadn't stopped—" Daniel squeezed back. "You don't need to thank me. Just promise me you'll be okay." She gave a weak smile as they took her down the corridor. The sound of thunder echoed behind her, but her eyes stayed locked on his until the doors swung shut. He waited in the lobby for over an hour, soaked to the bone, refusing to leave until a nurse came out. "She's stable," the nurse said gently. "We're keeping her overnight for observation." "You did the right thing bringing her in." Daniel nodded, exhaling in relief. He gave the nurse his number just in case, then drove home through the dying storm, unaware that what he'd done that night wasn't just a good deed. It was the beginning of something that would change both their lives forever. Spring had come and gone, and with it the storm that Daniel thought he'd never forget. But life, as it always did, went back to its steady rhythm. Each morning, Daniel packed Ella's lunch, dropped her off at school, and headed to the hardware store. His co-workers teased him about being too serious, but he didn't mind. His daughter was his world, his reason. Sometimes, though, when the sky turned gray or rain hit the window just right, he found himself thinking about that night. About Claire. He never saw her again. He'd called the hospital a few days later, but they said she'd been discharged. No forwarding information. He told himself that was good. It meant she was okay. But a part of him wondered if she even remembered the man who pulled her out of the storm. And then, one late afternoon, everything changed again. It was a quiet Thursday. The store was about to close when Daniel heard the bell above the door jingle. He looked up and froze. There she was. Claire. She stood in the doorway, sunlight spilling behind her like something out of a dream. Her hair was tied back now, her eyes bright but soft with emotion. She was holding something, a small bundle wrapped in a pale blue blanket. Daniel's breath caught. "Claire?" Her smile trembled. "Hey, Daniel." He stepped out from behind the counter, unsure whether to hug her or speak or just stand there. You're okay." She nodded, tears already welling up. "More than okay. Because of you." She took a step closer, and Daniel finally noticed the tiny hand peeking from the blanket. His heart thudded. "This is him," she said softly. "This is my son." Daniel blinked, speechless. You had the baby?" Claire laughed through tears. 3 weeks early, but perfectly healthy. I wanted to come sooner, but it took me a while to find you." He couldn't take his eyes off the little bundle. "What's his name?" Claire hesitated, her lip trembling. Then she whispered, "Daniel." The world seemed to still. He looked at her, eyes wide. You named him after me?" She nodded, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Because that night when I thought I wouldn't make it, when I thought no one would care, you stopped. You saved me. You gave my son the chance to be born. I wanted him to carry a name that meant hope, strength, kindness." Daniel swallowed hard, his throat thick. He reached out and she gently placed the baby in his arms. The tiny boy stirred, his fingers curling instinctively around Daniel's thumb. He couldn't remember the last time he'd cried, but now, standing in the soft glow of the shop, he did. Not from sadness, but something deeper. Something healing. Ella peeked out from the back room, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "Daddy, who's that?" Daniel turned, smiling through tears. "Sweetheart, this is Claire." "And this little guy?" He glanced down, his voice breaking. "His baby Daniel." Ella's mouth fell open. "He has the same name as you." Claire laughed softly. "That's right. Because your dad's a hero." The words hung in the air like music. For the first time in a long while, Daniel didn't deflect or downplay it. He just smiled. They closed the shop early that day. The 4 of them, Daniel, Claire, Ella, and baby Daniel, sat in the small diner across the street. The same stormy roads that once separated their worlds now felt like they'd been built just to lead them here. Claire told them about moving closer, about starting fresh. Her sister had found a place for her nearby, and she wanted to build something stable. For her son. By the time the sun dipped behind the horizon, Ella was giggling at baby Daniel's tiny yawns, and Claire was laughing at Daniel's terrible jokes. It felt easy, natural, like a family that had simply been waiting to find itself. When Claire finally stood to leave, she looked at him, really looked at him, and said, "I don't know what the future holds, Daniel, but I do know this. You changed my life once. Maybe we're meant to change each other's again." He nodded slowly, his chest warm. "I'd like that." She smiled, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Then maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's just where it all begins." As she walked out into the fading light, the bell above the door chimed softly, the same way it had when she entered. But this time it didn't sound like an ending. It sounded like a promise. Daniel looked down at Ella, who was already waving through the window. "Daddy," she said, "she's nice. I think we'll see her again." He smiled. "Yeah," he whispered. "I think so too." Outside, the last glow of the sun broke through the clouds, golden and clean, like the world itself was exhaling, and for the first time in years, Daniel Hayes didn't feel like a single dad. He just felt whole.